Good evening, everybody. This is Tuba. I am the founder, owner, and lead consultant of On-Time Training and Consultancy Services. So, in this event, we are going to speak with Alba Halilaj, and she will be sharing her successful PfMP journey, her insights from the journey, and she is going to share some tips, tricks, insights about how to prepare for the exam. But before we are going to get started with the conversation, with Alba. Let's do a brief introduction about the company and our guest as well. And then we will proceed with a detailed conversation. So, On-Time Training and Consultancy Services is a professional training and consultancy setup. We do provide the training, consultancy, and support in the P3 capacity, which means that we do offer the trainings, mentoring, and services for project program portfolio management and governance. We are mainly in the PMI and P3G QA standard. We do provide services for these two standards mainly. We do offer the training and support for PfMP, PgMP, PMP, PPA, ACP, and the other popular credentials for PMI. And we also are like consultant in the P3G capacity. Um, Other than that, we do offer consultancy support in the project and program management capacity. We do offer PMO consultancy. We do offer the career advisory in the project program management capacity. We do offer like the interview preparation in the project program management capacity. So if you need any of these services, you can always consult us. I'm going to share the communication channel in the comment area. So let's proceed with our main agenda for today, that how Alba cracked PfMP with above target level. Alba did her exam on 18th of May and she scored above target overall in the exam. So hi Alba, how are you doing?
Hello, Tuba. I'm doing fine. Thank you very
Thank
much for creating this opportunity to discuss my experience. Hopefully, this will be helpful for other future candidates as well.
I'm very hopeful that this conversation is very going to be very useful for the PfMP aspirants. And thank you very much for taking out time to speak with us. We are very grateful. So, Alba, a brief introduction about yourself, about your journey and professional profile, and then we will proceed with the PfMP targeted conversation.
Of course. I am located in Albania, over here in the Balkans, and I've been operating and working from Albania mostly in the local market, but at the same time, for quite a few years now. I'm a freelancer. I've been in different roles, started my career as a telecommunication engineer, and then quickly switched to project management. And then from that on, the natural progression of a project manager to program management and then to portfolio management. I am mainly working as a consultant. Currently, I'm focused on two big clients in my market, one in the construction, the other in the banking sector. And at the same time, together with the knowledge that I've acquired from my credentials, I have taken the initiative of creating courses of my own with a few colleagues at the Imetex Academy that are located here in Albania. So that is more or less a summarization of my entire experience up to now.
Yeah, I have known you for a couple of years now, and I know that how blessed you have been with respect to the professional roles and the journey that you have had in all these years. So yeah, we definitely are going to learn from you in this event. So Alba, people would like to know the first thing is why did you go for PfMP? Like how PfMP is helping in your professional
Hmm.
career, in your job roles, and overall as a professional.
I believe, as you know, when you are at the portfolio management level, you're not just managing projects and program. You are very influential in orchestrating organizational change and also contributing in the organization overall. So it was important after many years of experience for me to standardize my knowledge and to go to the right reference of standards, which is always the PMI in our case, and formalize the knowledge that had been, or the framework that I'd been applying rather intuitively up to that point. I believe that now I have a very solid foundation of managing and establishing organizational strategy. But at the same time, I think this entire experience has enhanced my ability to communicate at the C-level suite in their own language.
So, Alba, with this credential, PfMP, you actually became a PMI-P certified as well, which means that you are now not only PfMP, but you are PMP, PgMP, and PfMP certified, which is like collectively a huge skill set, like project program and portfolio, like at their respective level, actually, presents you as a professional, as a core professional in the
Yeah.
overall P3M capacity. So, what benefits do you see being a PMI-P certified? And one other thing that I really would like you to speak about is is there any particular advantage doing these credentials in the logical
Mhm.
order? Although PMI doesn't put any restriction about one followed by the other. But do you see
Yeah.
that PMP followed by PgMP followed by PfMP has some advantage?
Well, personally, this progression has mirrored my natural career evolution. So it was very much what I did in my roles and my experience that also required the theoretical knowledge as a solid foundation. So in PMP level, I established project fundamentals. Then with PgMP, I further developed my program orchestration capabilities. But at PfMP level, you are at the mix of, or at the intersection of strategy and execution. So having all three credentials, I believe signals to the boards and to the clients that I'm working with that I understand full spectrum from tactical delivery to strategic portfolio governance. So for me, it's about demonstrating intellectual rigor at every organizational level. Sorry, I was minimizing a pop-up notification. However, I believe I shared this briefly with you prior as well. My experience was very binary in the sense that PMP is already an established credential, and I did find there is quite a lot of knowledge and consideration and quite an appreciation for PMP. I would say department agnostic, whether I shared it with the PMOs of the clients or the companies I was working with. With PgMP and PfMP, the knowledge is very much siloed within the project management community. So when I shared, in both cases, the situation are very mirrored. When I shared PgMP and PfMP with the project management department, there was an immediate understanding of the high level of understanding that you have and the high level of credential and what it represents. However, going outside that, for example, right now, I shared the PfMP with my clients who I said are one is in the construction, the other is in the banking sector. So the executives of these clients are deep experts of their domains, but they are not necessarily technical about PMI. So I did find myself bringing awareness of what this credential means and how they empowered me and further solidified my knowledge. And so once I did that, so once I brought the awareness and the knowledge the certification bring, the impression was very good. It was quite so that I was in one case immediately trusted with something more complex that I had initially applied for. So the appreciation is there, but they are not quite as popular as I believe, at least in my experience. I don't want to generalize overall, but I did find that with PgMP and PfMP, I had to bring the knowledge and awareness outside of the PMI together with them knowing that I have this credential now.
Great. Yeah, because this is a very common, question and feedback that I received from the Journal P3 community that there are 1.6 million PMP certified across the globe, but there are only 2,500 PfMP certified and maybe 8,000 PgMP certified. So maybe the less number of people actually proportionates to like the lack of usefulness of that credential in your job roles or in the professional profile. So we actually want to we are having this conversation to emphasize that just because of the reason that less people are going for it, it doesn't imply that this is not a useful
Hmm.
skill set. This is a very, very useful skill set. It only uh, like the only thing is that uh, the people who actually go for PfMP, they automatically filters out. Like when you reach to the
Yeah.
the level at a strategic position, or you reach at a more strategic level, decision making level, less people are there, and most of the people don't go for PfMP because they feel that they are already accomplished, they are already working at that level,
Yeah.
and they probably know everything which already is there in that book or in that standard, right? So it doesn't imply that those who are going for it, they are like just wasting their time or money for that. No, not at all. This credential actually brings a lot of value to your portfolio, to your professional profile, and to your own self as a person and as a professional. Okay, thank you, Alba. Let's proceed forward with the
And
conversation.
sorry, I don't
Yeah,
want to interrupt, but just to add something else, because the return of investment is just not just only on the person that acquires the credential, it's on the organization as well. I do
right.
feel I'm quite a better professional after the knowledge that I've required through this training. So I do feel that the organization benefits more from it as well, from me becoming a better professional through this knowledge. And as I said, it was very much appreciated, and it did, I believe, play an important role of me being trusted with an even more complex task. But I had to do the prep work of letting people know what this entire process means.
Yeah, I understand because of the lack of awareness, and the reason why they usually don't go for it because they think that they are already doing everything which is discussed in there. Anyways, let's move forward. So Alba, let's do a more exam uh, prep related
Mhm.
conversation, because people are usually more interested in that like those who are actively preparing for the PfMP exam, that how much
Yeah.
time did you actually spend for the preparation, maybe like a rough roadmap or like a tentative plan, like weekly you have uh, you used to spend these many hours, or like overall you used to do you targeted 6 weeks, 8 weeks, like what was your way of study?
We because as people might know already, it's like two exams in one. So the first one, the first real test, is the application process. So we did the application quite a few months ago, and I couldn't be systematic in my learning just after the application. So after doing the application, I took some time of a break, and then I started systematically learning on the exam via the recorded sessions and the exam dumps on the last 2 months. So if I have to count the learning time, it would be 2 months of systematic dedication, meaning 2 to 3 hours per day, where I started with the sessions recorded that you shared with me, and the way I operate and I better think and process the information that I'm being given is by taking also notes. I'm a very visual person. I need to visualize what I'm listening to. So what it usually works for me, your sessions are usually 3 hours long and you have a break in them. I would separate them. So the first part of one session in the first day, I would stop and pause the session, take notes to process the information I was getting, and then the second part in the next day. That's how I operated, taking breaks during the weekend, but I did that 2 to 3 hours a day for 2 months systematically.
2 to 3 hours a day. So like tentatively 120 to 140 hours, like actively for 2 months of
Yes.
like yeah. So we also like in our study plan, we offer like plan of 120 hours of dedicated focused study, which includes mocks and videos and learnings and practice, a lot of practice at different levels, like everything in there. And yeah, it could be like maybe 120 could be reduced to 100, could be extended to 140 to 150, depending on the learning style of that delegate. But yes, usually 120 to 130 hours usually are needed for full preparation. At times, people do like uh, a minimized version of preparation as well, but we are not talking about that. We're talking about like the full-fledged study, and that
Mhm.
is usually very much helpful in the exam. So, Elva, did you opt for anything outside the study package that was provided to you by on-time training and consultancy services, or like any practice, any book, anything else?
No, I didn't feel the necessity of it. Uh, I mean, except from the standard. Sorry, I think I had a little break. Could you still hear me okay?
I can hear. Yeah.
Okay, because I thought I had an interruption. So I didn't go for different materials outside from what On Times provided for me, except from the standard maybe, which was I'm a PMI member for quite some years now. So the standard was available to me even prior to that, and it was a reference that I went to in during my experience. But otherwise, it was purely the On Times materials and learning session that helped me in the process.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Alba. Okay, so Alba, the next question again is about the exam experience and
Mhm.
when you were actually writing the exam, what was your overall experience with respect to time management, with respect to pressure handling, with respect to decision making, with respect to like any strategy that you had devised for your exam and that you feel if you're going to share with the PfMP aspirant that could be helpful. But of course, we are not going to talk about anything specific about the exam questions or anything, like just the tactics to write the exam that
Yeah.
you would like to share.
Yeah. So first and foremost, PMI members. So we have to respect and act according to the code of conduct and ethics. So very much the overall experience of the exam for me felt heavier than I was expecting, in the sense that I went with a certain level of preparation, but it was a little bit more complex than what I was initially anticipated. However, I like the fact, and the reason why I'm saying that is because the exam in itself tested your critical thinking, at least in my case, for my exam. It wasn't purely memorization testing examination. It was very critical thinking. The situations that I found in different questions mirrored a lot also scenarios from my real life experience. And I actually think that I nailed the high result because I was put in scenarios that tested my critical thinking. Otherwise, if it was pure memorization, I wouldn't have done probably so well because it wouldn't have worked if it doesn't have a logic on the layout. In terms of time management, because we've had previous experiences together, that it is not an issue for me. I'm quite a fast reader, more than the average person. So I did finish the exam with more than 50 minutes left at the end. But the way I did it, there are no predefined pauses in this exam. So I went through the first 100 questions. And then I felt the need that I had to take a break, even though the time passes. So they don't stop the time for you. And I took about 10 minutes, I believe. I just didn't want to look at the screen for those 10 minutes because going through 100 different questions, meaning going through 100 different scenarios, does become a bit heavier. And then after that break, I did the rest of the question 70. remaining questions. So I did take a break at my own accountability, knowing that the time was still running even during the break. It was needed for me to do a pause and reset myself in that regard.
Okay, great. And Alba, did you do any particular did you go for any particular tactic to handle the pressure? Because, when you are in the exam room, the anxiety and, the depression is very obvious. And I have seen, like, in very experienced people, like they become exam nervous, and you know, they get anxious during the exam. So anything that you would like to advise about that, especially to those who are directly going to or those who are directly entering the PMI world with the PfMP exam, like they don't have their PMP or PgMP or any other PMI credentials previously.
I mean, if those are people entering directly into PfMP, I'm impressed. But yeah, I would say I did not uh, learn anything, or I did not study anything up to 24 hours before the exam. So, I mean, after I stopped studying when it was exactly 24 hours before the exam. In the last day, I said, whatever I've learned is there. I will be able to reproduce my knowledge, and whatever I've not learned, I will not learn it under the pressure of the last day. So it was a pure serene day with my family, and the mentality that I go in these exams is that I have this experience, I have studied, I've dedicated the time. Now I'll give this a try. So even because I don't think that pressure does a good thing to you, I think it does quite the opposite. It can quite block or distort your memories. So even while it was quite impressive, because as soon as I hit start, the first question on my exam was a really long one, a calculation one that you had to scroll because one screen was not enough to fit the entire information. So from the first question, it was quite impressive, and I had to spend some minutes in calculations. But yeah, I'd say pull yourself together and think of it as a trial. This is my experience. This is the knowledge that I require. Learned so far. This is it. I'll give it a try.
Yeah, and PMI has like their own way to confuse you, to nervous you, and to make you conscious about the exam. And they have their own tricks during the
Mhm.
exam, and they really want you to be equipped with everything about the exam, not only with respect to the skill set, but like about how to write the exam, right? And this is like the reason why we are having this conversation, that exam is not only about the readiness with respect to that portfolio management skill set, but it's also about the readiness when it comes to your peace of mind, the freshness of your mind. That's very, very important. So when I share like some tips and tricks to my delegates before the exam, this is like my like usual advice to them, that please stop studying. If not before 24 hours, then at least before 12 to 14 hours, you should not be studying. You should be like, you should be staying away from the books. You can do anything that you would like to, maybe watch a movie or be with your family, or maybe uh, get a very good sleep, but you should not be studying. And that really uh, impacts in a positive way during the exam. So yeah. So Elba, one other thing that I really would like to talk about is application process. You briefly mentioned in the
Yeah.
beginning that how this overall credential is about. So for those who are new to it and they are just exploring the credential is not only about the exam. So it's not like something that, yes, so you need to prepare, you need to sit in the exam, and you need to pass the exam, and that would earn you the credential. Before sitting in the exam, there is like a very important step of getting the panel approval on your PfMP eligibility, and that we term as application process for PfMP credential. To those who are already aware of it, they must already be knowing that how comprehensive this step is, how important this step is, and how critical it may become if you receive a rejection on your application, God forbid. So I really would like to talk about that as well. That how was your experience when it comes to the PfMP application uh, devising as well as like the overall approval process?
Mhm. Well, actually, our entire collaboration, as a matter of fact, started years ago when I was facing a lot of challenges with the PgMP application back in the days. So even though the experience is there, the knowledge is there, being able to have your guidance and write it in a way so that it clearly communicated what I did in such a structured way that it was easy verifiable. And I remember my PgMP application approval was like one working day. Everyone was like shocked. So it took a longer time with PfMP, as I believe it is quite random how you get selected to go through those processes in the meantime. But it was necessary to have some guidance so that I was able to structure, because as I said earlier, half of the exam for me is going through that application process. It is quite meticulous. I believe and it is a joint work. So I provided the information and you guided me on the way of structuring and writing them in a way that it was readable and approachable and easy verifiable. So that helped a lot. And it required quite the preparation that I would put, I don't know, maybe in an investment strategy or in an investment selection process. So it was quite meticulous. I actually like PMI scrutiny when it comes to applications, because I believe they guarantee credential integrity by making the application.
I'm so
Hello,
sorry.
Tuba?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. I'm so sorry. My internet acted up. I'm so sorry about it.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
okay. It was.
yeah.
Did you hear my response? Did it go through successfully, I believe?
I believe if you could reshare that, that would be helpful. Like I was away for like the last 1 minute.
Okay, so basically, if I have to summarize, the knowledge and experience was there, but my way of putting it into a proper application process that would go through as smoothly as it went was not there. So your assistance with the application was very much needed and appreciated, because it did help me structure that information in a way so that it went smoothly and successfully. And I was mentioning earlier that the entire process, because it was a collaboration as well, like I had to give you the information so you were able to instruct me in the way of structuring it. The entire process probably required the same complex logic that I do follow in investment choices or things of that level. And I said also that I appreciate PMI scrutiny with this kind of credentials and the application process, because to me, it is what guarantees credential integrity. And at this level of knowledge that you acquire with such certification, I believe it is very much needed.
That's correct. And when it comes to application, to those who are new to this process, there are two approval cycles on the same application after you submit your experiences in the portfolio management capacity on the PMI website. So the first approval cycle actually verifies your 4 years of portfolio management experience along with the 8 years of business experience and all. And if you qualify that, then the application, uh, more specifically, the domain experience summary is part of it, enters the panel approval process, which is actually more comprehensive, more extensive than the first approval. And that's the reason why people usually call it panel approval. Like they are aware of the panel approval terminology. because panel approval is actually the approval uh, which qualifies you to sit in the exam. And so after your panel approval is done, which may take up to 2 months, but usually like within 2 to 4 weeks of time, it's usually granted, but it may take, as per the process, it may take up to 2 calendar months after the panel approval is done. Your 1 year eligibility to sit in the exam would start. So this is how the process briefly is. Okay, Alba, thank you very much for sharing this. So moving forward in our conversation, uh, the question that probably most of the people like are waiting for, that like, I mean, the material that you receive from on-time training for the preparation, especially the mocks, uh, are those helpful for the real exam? Did you find the exact same questions from the mocks in the exam? This is like a very common question that we receive, although uh, the question doesn't make sense because at a level, at a portfolio management level, we of course do not expect that the very same or similar question should be appearing in the exam. But people have this question usually, and maybe you can talk about the mocks which were more relevant for the exam, and they also are very much worried about which standard they should be reading or which standard is more relevant for the real exam. So standard is like a book, reference book provided by the PMI body itself, and it's not like only one source for the exam, but that's a most useful resource or most useful uh, book for the exam. So yeah, you can talk about anything that you have found helpful for your preparation with respect to the
Sure.
material itself. Yeah.
Okay, so as I mentioned prior as well, I did go through the standard, and I had the standard available to me even prior to going through the path of PfMP itself. However, the standard, it is a very good guideline, but it doesn't have all the information that is going to be tested in the exam. So the information, I feel, is way more fundamental and more granular. I did go initially through your recorded sessions, and I believe those did provide the exact knowledge that is going to be tested in various ways in the exam as well. So the knowledge was very comprehensive. Experience helps a lot as well, because as I said, I did find some scenarios mirroring complex situation and dilemmas I have in the real world as well. But the guidance that I received, especially the granular information through the sessions. What I mean by that is that, as I said earlier, if I have to generalize based on my exam alone, I didn't feel like it was memorization purely tested. It was the critical thinking, meaning if I was referred to any important document or artifact, like the roadmap or the charter, the name of the document was never there, not even the main indicator. For example, we know roadmap and timeline. If you say one, you're saying the other, the keyword is there. I was asked about the roadmap multiple times in my exam, but with other key indicators. So knowing what is the role of each artifact, what is the component that make this artifact, what are the key activities of each process, what is, for example, one tool and technique that is quite often used in different processes can be qualitative and quantitative analysis. It is used for different purposes each time. So knowing what the purpose is, because you're not going to be asked explicitly about it. You are going to be given information very implicitly, and you have to understand that, okay, by the situation that is described, I am now in managing strategic change, for example. So this must be the process that I have to follow, or after all this change process, maybe the next step I need to do is record a risk. So these are obviously examples of the way the knowledge is tested. So it was not linear. In that regard, as I said, I found your sessions and I studied the information shared in them quite intensively, and I found those very helpful. When it comes to the exam mocks, so there is latest, I believe, first. Those are very linear. Don't expect. The most linear thing that I found were actually calculation questions, because they cannot be creative about them. So the formulas are going to be tested, your knowledge is going to be tested, but with different numbers. And I had quite a few calculation questions. I don't remember exactly, but I could say 8 to 10 maybe were of that kind. And those are also the questions that do come up with more time requirement for you to work on, as you know. But at the same time, it is important memorizing, but most importantly, understanding what each process does, and what each document, the role is, and with what each tool and technique does in different processes. And I believe the way Ontimes and what is the other, PgM-30 was the one after, Ontimes and PgM-30 do test your knowledge in a similar way, I believe. So meaning there are no similar questions. I wouldn't expect that, but the knowledge is tested in a similar way, not in a linear way. So they make you think and put importance to the areas that you need to memorize the most. So I personally find studying Ontimes and PgM-30's questions, but PgM-30 more for the situational, not for the calculation ones. The calculation ones, I would go back to Ontime's questions. These two are pretty much what I believe give you a sense of what the exam and how you are going to be tested in the exam as well. At least in my exam, again, I'm generalizing based only on my experience, but I believe, because even me, prior to going in the exam, I heard other webinars that you had with candidates that went successfully, and I believe there is a pattern, because they also find Ontime's ones quite helpful. I do see now why.
Yeah, so at times people ask me that this curriculum of portfolio management with respect to the volume, it's very, I mean, it's a very small standard, and it's like 16 processes and 5 domains. And for a person who is already working at that level with like 15 to 20 years of experience, or maybe 10 plus years of experience, I mean, it's like nothing. So people ask me like how the exam is going to be tested, and uh, most of them expect that probably they are going to be tested like with respect to their memory, like maybe these inputs and outputs for this process, or like the names of the process itself, or probably the names of the tools and techniques itself. No, not really. At times in the exam, you are not even in a position to guess that in this particular situation, which process really maps in. Maybe it's like only like the understanding that if we are in defining phase of the portfolio, or in aligning, or in monitoring or controlling, like you are not even in a position to understand that which particular process they are really
Yeah.
talking about in the aligning process growth. So like this is the expectation that you have that interconnected understanding of all the different ITTOs and processes, and the different methodologies, different principles, and different things in there, in a way that whichever situation, practical situation, is going to be presented to you in the exam, you should be able to answer that. And of course, the answer choices are not going to be like very direct. Like, so maybe they are not going to directly say the scenario analysis technique as scenario analysis. Maybe they are going to say a statement, a brief statement, which actually explains scenario analysis. And they expect you to know that this statement in the option choice is actually about scenario analysis. So exam is going to be very twisted. Exam is going to be like very tricky. They are not going to directly ask you anything, and they are not going to ask you the things in silos. So for instance, in exam, they most likely are not going to ask a governance oriented question only related to governance area or governance committee or something. They are going to ask it in a way that they would intermingle the strategy and governance and communication together in a scenario. and they expect you to know the relevant processes and relevant interconnectivities in a way that you are in a position to understand that actually it is about governance, or it is about communication, or it is about strategy, and then you answer it accordingly. So, and on average per question, Alba is a fast meter, but usually people struggle with time in the exam. So on average, per question you have 60 to 70 seconds in the exam. So you need to be like very much like cautious about the time. You need to be very much clear in your thought process, and you should be very much calm and composed as well. So multiple traits are being tested in the exam, right? And the only solution to all of this is practice. That you do as much time bound or like open time practice, but you do a lot of practice from a variety of sources, from in a variety of ways. Like you should be doing direct practice as well. You should be doing scenario oriented practice as well. And as people ask me that why do you provide in the earlier phases of practice, like why do you provide the direct practice, like the direct understanding of ITTOs and tools and techniques when exam is not going to test it, because it has its own importance, right? Doing the direct practice has its own importance, although we clearly give that disclaimer that exam is not going to test you this way. But this is important. This is a necessary step to proceed to the situational and more, scenario oriented practice. And I think Alba would agree with me on this that some practice that I have provided, like in the earlier phases, like which were purely about knowing the ITTOs and tools and techniques and processes names and different terminology. That's important because that would actually establish your that your foundational understanding of this skill set, so that you would be in a position to apply everything in an interconnected way in the scenarios. So every step in the study plan is important. Maybe every step doesn't directly lead you to your real exam experience, but every step is important in the study plan. Yes, Alma, please.
Yeah, I would only add, so when we're further discussing about why the exam is testing your knowledge so in such a mixed way, I believe it's very much what to be expected at this level. So we are at a level where we're managing portfolios. I don't go in meetings or in situations on my daily work where people expect me to say my knowledge in a silo or recite things by memorization that do throw me real situations that are very intertwined with a lot of phases, cost and benefit, for example, analysis. You do it no matter the process group you're in. You do it throughout the entire life cycle of everything. So it is expected because it has to mirror what we do in real life. Now, for this level of complexity, you do expect your knowledge to be asked in a way that it makes sense. That's why I said for me it was very important to listen to those sessions because first of all, I could listen the granularity. So you do open the inputs, the tools and techniques, and the outputs on the first slide, but then you go into what each one of them means, what's inside of what's the role of each thing, and that was it is what gives you the understanding, that what gives you the logic, and that what you can associate with the real life experience that you are having, and that helps you better memorize it. And I believe that knowledge is what is actually tested in the exam in various ways. Like I believe, as you said, PMI has a way of constructing questions so that it leads you to the exact understanding, even without mentioning like shining keywords or anything that would directly give it. But the information is definitely there. You just have to identify via reading it.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Alba, for this detailed discussion. So Alba, one other thing that I commonly receive as a question is like especially from those delegates who are actually like confused between uh, like a couple of credentials, or who probably like do not have like a direct yes to this credential. They probably are evaluating their options, and they would like to know that why would I invest this much money and this much amount of time and effort in this credential when I have this easy option and less, you know, costly option available, like some other credential. So they would want to know that how my payback is going to happen and what is the ROI on my investment and when I'm going to start seeing the benefits and the results on this. They at times would want to know, and we know that this credential may cost you overall from $1,500 to $2,000, maybe less, maybe more, depending on your region. The fee is regional in case of PMI, but usually somewhere between 1,200 to 2,000, minimum 1,200, 1,300 dollars are needed, including your mentoring, training, and exam fee, etc. So people would like to know that how do we see the return with these credentials? And there is no right or wrong answer to this question. Different people have different perspective. Maybe someone would say that
Absolutely.
I want this credential just because my organization wanted, and that's going to lead me to my next career level in the organization. And maybe someone else would say that I want this credential because I see benefits more in the intangible way than the tangible way. So what is your take on this?
Well, again, I can only share my experience and why I decided to pursue it and what I'm seeing as a direct benefit out of it is that, first of all, the realization that at portfolio leadership level, I'm no longer operating at the cost center level, but at the value creation level. So the knowledge that comes with it was very much needed for me to enhance all my capabilities and to reinforce my position with the clients that I'm working on. What I automatically could achieve out of it, as I mentioned earlier, is I believed when I shared the knowledge that I've acquired and it was acknowledged. So the scarcity, especially when I mentioned how few people do actually have the credential, create quite an impression. And I believe the reason why I was given, and this is very recent, as my credentials is also very recent, I was given a higher task than I even applied to initially, was I believe because of this as well. So I did see a return of investment when I brought forward the awareness that I have received this kind of knowledge and this kind of accreditation with PMI. If seeing it as an immediate career acceleration, I wouldn't know what to answer to that. I usually don't go for credentials merely for that. I go for the knowledge I acquire first, and then that makes me confident to, one, increase my rates. I did that after acquiring PgMP because I'm a consultant and I do have that. Two, this credential also gave me the opportunity to finally wrap up officially my knowledge and create the courses with Emetics Academy. So I did see a couple of immediate return of investment for myself. So it depends on how you use it, how you are positioned in the market. But just the credential alone published out there, it's not like it attracted anything to come back to me. Maybe because, as we mentioned earlier, the fact that there is no very much knowledge, this kind of credentials are very scarce. But once I put the information out there, the importance was acknowledged, and I was able to get. But I assume everybody's experience is different, and I am not very courageous in saying go and spend this amount of money because it worked for me. Do measure your options, I would say, and do see that. But definitely, if you aspire to go in a portfolio leadership role, I see the value that it brings. Absolutely.
I totally agree. How you're going to get the benefits from these credentials is totally up to you. It's like totally dependent on how you have planned your career, how you have planned your like next couple of moves in the upcoming years. And I at times receive this comment as well, like those people who are already done with these credentials, they say that but these credentials like really haven't brought any particular advantage in terms of financials or in terms of positions or roles or maybe like, improving our presence in the market as well. Maybe the reason is that you have not rightly used it. Like, but when we are going to talk about something like this, we are not going to take a particular use case. We will talk like in journal, and generally, most of the people get advantage, like tangible and intangible, both advantages from these credentials. Uh, Only like very few cases we would hear these statements that no, these credentials are not really bringing anything useful. Maybe at the very least the usefulness is like improving your knowledge, knowing that how global industries are working, like people at a global scale are working in the project procurement portfolio management capacities, and what areas we are not really working in the appropriate manner, or what mistakes we are doing or we have been doing just because of the reason that we were not aware of these practices of different processes, for instance change management processes, for instance risk management process. Right. So, like, there are multiple angles with which this question can be answered. But, like, I would say that most of the people, most of the time, like, they find usefulness from these skill sets, and they take the advantage in a variety of different ways, and they get their paybacks as well. Maybe not like sooner, maybe a little later, but they are going to definitely going to get their payback and returns from this. Okay, so Alba, in the last, would you like to advise anything to the future aspirants and those who are actively or passively seeking this credential?
Well, I mean, as I said, I don't want to generalize my experience onto anybody else. Hopefully, this information we shared mirrors somebody's situation and is helpful. I did find myself quite listening to these webinars when I was going through the PfMP experience and finding them very orienting. So thank you, Tuba, for allowing me to follow that. My general approach to any credential is it is not an immediate accelerator or anything. It opens doors. I can use the certification now to clearly claim portfolio leadership roles, but how I use the knowledge acquired in the process is what determines what happens next. So to me, it's very important to have the credentials, especially when you come from, I'd say, rather smaller countries. Like I'm located in Albania and I often work with international clients. It's way easier for me to validate my knowledge and my experience through these international credentials as well. So they do help a lot in that regard. So they position me in a system that is easy it can be referenced easy by other people as well. They know my value through this international credentials. So I do find them very helpful. I do find the knowledge I acquire for them quite enhancing my day-to-day capabilities. And as I said, especially at this level, I do believe the return of investment, when you get the right people to talk to, they will understand that the return of investment is not only on the person, it's on the organizational level as well. So having really prepared program managers and portfolio managers, to me, it's quite fundamental to an organization in their day-to-day business.
Thank you so much, Alba. Yeah, the last thing that I would like to add here is these credentials do not replace your experiences or your professional experiences. They actually complement your experiences. They actually
Absolutely.
complement your knowledge, your skill set in a very streamlined way, right? So those who think that experience is everything, yes, experience is like everything. We also say the same, but experience, in addition to knowing like what the rest of the world is doing, in a more refined and streamlined way, actually stands you out in the market. Thank you very much, Alba, for this very useful and insightful conversation. In the end, so we are only left with 5 minutes, and we have a couple of questions from the audience. So Kamran has a question. He's asking that he's asking about the question answer banks for PfMP, and is there any test bank with the latest updates? Um, that's like his first question. And the other one is it enough to study only the PMI standard of portfolio management? Right? Maybe Alba, you are the right person to answer these two questions.
Yeah, I think we did in a way address those, but to briefly summarize again, I do not find the standard alone being enough because, as I mentioned, I did find the exam being quite granular, even in the way the questions were formulated. So I do believe having the standard as a guideline is very helpful, but the standard alone is not enough. To go through this exam. A lot of the questions had information that you cannot maybe directly get from the standard itself. And in terms of the exam dams, again, I do believe from the one that Ontime's provided, the Ontime's itself, which is a summarization of questions, and there are also another bank, PgM-certified, another exam bank, that Ontime provides. They are quite similar in the way they test you. Not in the sense you will not find the exam questions anywhere, and it's not even ethical for them to be out there. But the knowledge and the way it is tested very much mirrors these two exam dams.
Yeah, and the purpose of mocks is to get you ready in a way that when you are going to sit in the exam and you are going to do the exam, any question which is going to be presented to you, you are ready for it. Like, even if that question is very new to you, but you should be in a position to answer that. That's the purpose of the mocks. The purpose of the so that's the difference between mocks and dumps. Dumps are actually real exam questions, the exact same questions coming from the real exam uh, pool of questions. Mocks are like devised by the experts in a way that they would give you that confidence to write your exam. All right. So please be very, clear about this that even if a trainer or if a provider is providing you the exact same questions as as those which are appearing in the real exam, this is actually non-professional and unethical. This is not correct, right? Okay. I believe like we are done with the questions. And if anybody has got any question, because we don't have that much time, you can just unmute and you can ask the question directly to Alba or to. Is there any questions by anybody from the audience for Alba? Okay. I believe we are done, Alba, and thank you very much for taking out time and to share your very useful journey, the tips and tricks, and your lessons learned. I'm sure many people are going to get benefited from this. Um, uh, Thank you very much. Have a good day, and thank you very much everyone to join the event and to be part of it and to share your comments and feedback. I will be back very soon with the success story of another delegate. Till then, take care. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Tuba.
Bye.